Hello everyone, welcome back to Tech Talk Dad. So, you're in the market for a new Mac, and you're on the fence about whether or not you should spend the extra cash on Mac upgrades like a larger SSD or more RAM. Well, recently, I've been in your shoes, trying to figure out what to buy when upgrading my MacBook Air. Also watching many YouTube videos, just trying to get others' opinions on things like stick with an older 8GB of RAM, or 16GB or more than that, or 256GB of SSD, 512 or a terabyte, and so on and so forth. And what I noticed was there's a lot of videos left out a crucial piece of information for a decision like this, and that is swap memory. Now, understanding swap memory usage is critical to this decision, and understanding it can save you some serious money to better understand swap memory usage. Let's start with RAM and SSD. RAM stands for Random Access Memory, which is like short-term memory of your computer. It's quick and powerful, but forgetful. Since you can't store files on it or documents on it, think of RAM like a whiteboard. Everything I write on a whiteboard will stay there as long as it's needed, but once it gets cleared, it's gone forever. Now, let's talk about SSD, which stands for Solid State Drive, which is like the long-term memory of your computer. It's fantastic at remembering things, but can and does get cluttered over time. Think of it like writing on a chalkboard. We can write as much as we want on it, but sooner or later, we'll need to erase everything to be able to reuse it. And as we write and clean it over time, the chalkboard starts to get smudged and messy, making it much harder to write further on it. Similar to how we write and rewrite onto the chalkboard, it damages it over time, and repeated writing and rewriting of files and data onto an SSD causes the same damage, resulting in loss of storage capacity, becoming slower over time. Now, what about swap memory usage? Well, let's go back to both the whiteboard and the chalkboard. Assume I'm writing a large paragraph on the whiteboard and run out of space. We obviously need more space to finish out writing, so we start writing on the chalkboard to finish it. Ensure this allows for more work to be done while the whiteboard is out of space. Swap memory is the same thing when your workflow overloads your MacBook. RAM swap memory comes into play, and similarly to how we use the chalkboard, additional space for the work is needed. Your computer recruits the internal storage to temporarily write data that should have been done with the RAM, if there was enough space to do so. Now, for the vast majority of people, swap memory usage isn't that big of a deal, because it's unlikely that you'll use a significant amount of it during normal use. And even if you do, it takes a tremendous amount of reading and writing cycles to have any noticeable negative effect on your SSD. However, if you're part of the group who work on power-hungry tasks like heavy multitasking, rendering all day, or 4K editing, it is likely that you'll run into noticeable slowdown and cause damage to your SSD. This is when upgrading from 8 or 16GB of RAM is more necessary and should be considered. So, what's my recommendation? Well, if you're part of the 90 to 95% who won't be using your new MacBook for rendering all day, running dozens of apps at the same time, or multitasking for hours and hours on end, using a ton of memory, trust me when I say, save your money and get the base model MacBook Air, whether that's M2, M3 or M4, and 256 gigs of SSD storage. If you're part of the 5 to 10% who know that they have heavier than average workloads, or you just have extra cash to spend, I do recommend upgrading to further than the 16GB of RAM. But hardly ever do I recommend paying the offensively overpriced rates of SSD storage upgrades. If anything, buy an external SSD, which could be picked up as 1TB of storage for around £100 at the time of this video. Or, if you have some extra cash, you can spend the same amount on an NVMe SSD upgrade in a case, which will have faster read and write times. And to put this into perspective, I still use my MacBook Air M1 with 8GB of RAM, where I've edited my YouTube videos at 1080p for my gaming channel. It's only at the point now where I get into 4K video editing for this channel, I notice a slight slowdown. Don't get me wrong, it isn't extremely noticeable, as it's still a powerful machine, but I've started to notice the swap memory being used more and more, and I want to limit the damage to my SSD. So guys, thank you so much for watching this video, and I hope you've enjoyed it. Please do give the videos a thumbs up, subscribe for further videos, and I'll catch you in the next one.